Have you used promotional materials in your business before? Now, I'm talking things like koozies, pens, water bottles, different things like that that have your logo or, a saying or something else like that on it. Well, if so, have you thought about the strategy behind it? Have you thought about the target market that's going to be using it? Have you thought about the usefulness of those products, or even how we can leverage some lead capture in the process? Well, today in this conversation, I sit down with Michelle Olsen, who is the owner of Hat Trick Promotion here in Central Texas. And we're having a conversation specifically on this. How do we get the most out of promotional materials? How do we use it effectively within the business? And it's just an amazing conversation. So sit down, relax, and jump into this fantastic conversation with Michelle Olsen. Welcome back to another episode of The Ownership Advantage. I'm so excited to be sitting down today with Michelle Olsen. I'm going to be talking about a few things when it comes to marketing, branding, promotional products, things like that. So this will be a fun-packed conversation for most of you business owners out there in terms of kind of some lessons, some different things to think about, things like that. So Michelle, first of all, thank you for jumping on, being here with me today. For those that haven't met you before, just give us a super quick overview, the business that you run, a little bit of just your background in general, but tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, well, thanks, Tanner, for having me. First of all, happy to be here. My name is Michelle Olsen. My business is Hat Trick Promotions. I started it in 2017. After having been actually in the medical industry, I was a sonographer, working in the hospital, loved that. But we have 6 kids all together, and at the time, 5 of them were still at home. So I was also needing to be able to taxi kids around. And when the youngest started school, this also was around the same time as the Wimberley floods that happened Memorial 2015. I started doing a lot of disaster relief work as well. So I decided instead of going back to the hospital to work, I needed something more flexible, something that I could work around the family schedule and work around my disaster relief volunteer, initiative, and kind of searching for something that I could do that would still get me an opportunity to help people. I discovered promotional marketing, and I scheduled 2 kind of just meetings with friends that owned businesses that I thought I just need to ask them some questions, see what they think about promotional marketing before I jump into this. And with both meetings, granted, I hadn't even started this company yet, both meetings I walked out with orders and was like, okay, there's obviously a need here. Now I need to run with this. I need to learn this. So that was 2017. I'm still going strong. I love it. I've had just the honor of meeting so many wonderful business owners in the Round Rock, Central Texas, Austin area, as well as I have some companies and organizations in other states too. The beauty of the internet in our first century and how small the world has become. So I've been doing that and enjoying every minute of it.
That's fantastic. So promotional products, tell us a little bit more. What does that look like? So if I would imagine that it's probably fairly self-explanatory, but for those that really haven't gotten into this yet, right? They're smaller businesses. They're looking at different ways that they can kind of market, get their brand out there a little bit. Tell us about some of the things that you guys actually do or provide for as services. What is promotional products for those that are sitting going, what exactly is that?
That's a great question. So marketing can entail all kinds of things. Obviously, the old school was, print in the newspaper ads. You had television, radio. Nowadays, we've got internet, advertising through Google, all of those things. Promotional product marketing is the only one that is tangible. It's the only one that gives you all the 5 senses, the sights, touch. Sometimes you can smell it. You can do a lot of things to really engage people, make something memorable, tie it to an experience, at an event, things that will then not only provide memories of that great moment that they either received a promotional gift or just kind of creating a connection in that way, especially with, the Gen Z and the millennials. They don't necessarily want a lot of stuff, but they want experiences, and you can actually tie those things in to create experiences that also leave them with a little bit of a souvenir and something that will bring that memory back and keep the brand and the message top of mind as well for long after. So the neat thing there with, say, radio or TV, you'll have that message come across in the 30-second or maybe as long as 2-minute, whatever that advertising span is. Mm-hmm. And then it's gone. So with promotional marketing, that impression, the cost of that impression just keeps going and going long after it's paid for. Just, it ends up being pennies to the dollar that is spent, just keeping that going. So, and another thing is that oftentimes promotional or branded items get gifted to other people. Or, how many times have you gone to a restaurant and accidentally taken the pen that the waitress laid down? And before you know it, you may have had 5 people see that brand. And it only costs that business the one time. And so another thing too that I think is really cool is that promotional marketing is the only form of advertising that you will hear thank you for. There's that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept. We were actually just talking about this the other day on like the tangibility of some of these things, right? You take a business like ours that's way more informational based. It's I don't know if you've ever read the book Selling the Invisible, but when you're selling professional services and things like, there's not tangible things that go along with it. So we were literally just having a conversation of like, what is the tangible thing? Like, people still want stuff, right? There's things that they need. So I really like how from a marketing perspective, this is a way to kind of bring some of that in that does last a bit longer than just the 30 seconds that somebody sees the ad or something else like that. But you mentioned tying in the experience. So I think that's such a piece that I think would be fun to kind of dig into. Why is experience such an important piece of whether it's just the marketing process overall or specifically within promotional materials? Why is the experience so important when it comes to advertising to your potential customers?
Well, once again, especially the younger generation, and I totally appreciate, I'm Gen X, but totally appreciate the less use of landfill, which we actually call brand fill in our industry. We don't want brand fill. We don't want the items that our clients purchase to end up as trash. And so as a whole, our industry is working towards more sustainability, going with eco-friendly products, but also, believe it or not, reducing some of that products that we sell. So I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive to a business to reduce your sale, but what that really means is instead of getting 1,000 little tchotchkes that don't really mean a lot, focusing it down to maybe 100 high value sustainable items that people are going to appreciate, find useful. It's a utilitarian product maybe, or just a high value retail item. So then, instead of buying all of the 1,000 tchotchkes, you can use an experience in, say, maybe a trade show booth or an employee appreciation event or a customer appreciation event. Have that event and have something fun that is tied along with the promo. I'm going to give you an example because I loved this. I'm a lifetime member of Texas Search and Rescue, an amazing nonprofit organization, and I also work with them a lot on the marketing side too. From a volunteer perspective, but also from a business perspective. Something that we did this past year at the Search Party, that's what the annual gala fundraiser is called, is the Search Party, how appropriate. It's a human slot machine, jackpot, human jackpot. So basically, one of our other members built a really cool 3-person box where the 3 people couldn't see each other. But they were all in their window, and that was volunteers, some Techstar volunteers, and we had a few promo items at our disposal. And as people would come up and pull the slot machine, arm down, a little noise would happen, the lights would go, and the 3 of us would do this with all the different promo things and rotate, and then whenever the ding 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 stopped, we had to hold up one, and we couldn't see what the other people were holding up. But if they matched, then that person got a free promo. And it was something fun, something engaging. People laughed, people took pictures, took video. So it ended up on social media. Like, this was a way that it didn't just create the experience for people there, but then it was passed along and talked about way beyond just the event. And then, of course, the promo item that people won and were able to take home gives them that memory. And it was a good time. It was a good cause. So that's the kind of, experience that is something that is going to just keep that item a little more special.
Man, I can visualize all that. It's such a good example of how to bring all that stuff together. Mm-hmm. I can feel what that probably felt like. And yeah, if I had something like that, being able to remember that moment, which is really, really cool.
And talk about bringing in all five senses too,
Yeah.
right? You've got all the, the sights, the sounds, everything going. So
Yeah, dang, that is really cool. So when you're seeing, some businesses out there that are using promotional materials, especially in today's day and age, I don't know if things have kind of shifted and changed over, the last couple of years, but what do you tend to see are things that businesses get wrong? If they're going to use promotional materials and things like that, what have you seen as things that they've gotten wrong in the past and maybe could have improved upon?
okay, well, the number one thing that I would say when a business has an event coming up and they're like, oh, okay, we're going to need however many, whether it's hundreds or 1,000 items that we just need to give away. And that's kind of like what they're thinking is, I need 500 things to give away at this event. And instead of thinking give away, think of what is the purpose. So is that purpose to draw people to the table at the event? Is that purpose in order to generate leads at the event? Or is the purpose to maybe get engagement? Only give away something that is to a person that's going to sign up for a future a plan, a meeting. What is the goal here? And so if you don't have a promotional marketing specialist on your side, you might just run to the big box internet promo web store, right? And just start searching all of their stuff, and maybe you go for the cheapest. Highly do not recommend that route. One is because the big box promo store isn't going to make sure your art is in the right format and it prints well and it fits the imprint size the right way to really make you look good. But also you might not be thinking of the end goal in mind, and that's where, a specialist can help with that. So the other part is, whenever you just think like, okay, I totally understand a budget. I work within people's budgets all the time. But instead of trying to get as many of the cheap things and putting your brand on that, then later, there might be issues with that product and you don't want your name associated with the issue. Whenever my clients have a lower budget, I still look for value and I still look for quality. And maybe we just have to reduce the quantity, but lower quantity and higher quality is so much more important whenever you're putting your brand attached to that. So that's a huge thing. And then also, it helps to have somebody who can really walk you through some of these things, because I've had clients that said, yeah, I ordered from blank.com, and when the cups came in, I was surprised they were almost like shot glasses. I was expecting a much larger cup. Granted, it does tell you, it's 8 ounces or 12 ounces, 16 ounces, 24 ounces or whatever, but sometimes people don't visualize that very well, and that's where I can say, hey, by the way, this is what this would look like. Maybe you want something a little bigger, and, I do that for my clients. There's no additional charge for consulting on these kinds of projects. That's, it really doesn't cost anything extra to work with a local promo person than it does to go to the website. It may actually save you money. Anyway, that's a few things.
Yeah, that's I think you hit on some really important points, especially for the audience being business owners, and some have some background in marketing, some may not, some may have marketing teams, some may not. But one of the things that you said there was not just a giveaway, but what's the purpose? Is it meant to be lead gen? Is it meant to be more awareness based? Is it meant to be something else, right? What is the actual outcome that we're looking to achieve, which I think is important in any marketing channel or any marketing thing that we do. But for you to be able to take that step back and say, hey, from a promotional material standpoint, we have to be asking these same questions. What does this look like? And be able to guide someone. For those that are watching, like, this is tremendous value that you absolutely need if you want to gain an ROI. If you're going to invest a little bit more, if you're going to do higher quality, lower items, having that purpose behind it, so critical to the long-term success. And, Michelle, when we first jumped on before we started recording, you had mentioned something about target market. And I wanted to ask you a question about that. You'd mentioned that it's really important to be thinking through, what does the target market find useful? So when you're thinking about promotional products and consulting and working with these business owners, how do you help guide them through that process? What's it mean to help identify what the target market finds useful?
Well, so target market is hugely important, but also the event and or how the delivery is going to happen. And so what I mean by that is obviously your marathon runner at a marathon is going to be interested in a different type of promotional item than your tech guy at a convention. So, I always ask, like the main questions that I ask when I start working with somebody is, what is this event? Is it indoor? Is it outdoor? Who's going to be there? Like we're talking demographics, the age, male, female, are they construction workers? As a matter of fact, I have a couple of items. So I just went to a trade show myself for construction and building. So as an example, my target market for that, I ordered some specialty business cards. So my regular business card looks like this, but the difference is on the back side, this one has sandpaper. And the cool thing about the sandpaper, which is great for, your builders and engineers that are trying to market to builders and whatnot. But the other cool thing about this is it doubles as a nail file. So now that my construction and building show is over, I gave these out to the professional women of Williamson County just this past week at our meeting. And the women love them because they're like, oh yeah, I always need a nail file, right? So it's about understanding who your target market is and what they're going to find useful. Something else for the builder show that I did was, so this is kind of the nice little retail packaging, but what's inside is it looks like your basic carpenter pencil, except for that, this one, by the way, it says hardworking promos for hardworking pros. Again, special for them. But the neat thing about this one is that most carpenter pencils, if you're familiar with them, you don't sharpen them with a regular pencil sharpener. You take a knife and you do the thing and it whittles down. So a lot of companies will do just basic carpenter pencils. They are very cheap, so if you have a low budget, it is a great giveaway for that target market. The nice thing about this one, this is made of tungsten metal, so this will never break, and it will never need sharpening, which means your logo will always stay there, and it will always be in their pocket. Well, actually, there's also a pocket-sized one, so there's one for the pocket.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but anyway, so that kind of thing. Sure, yes, this does cost more than the other lead-based carpenter pencil, but this thing's they're gonna keep it. This thing is gonna stay around forever. That cost per impression goes down year after year. So that's the kind of, thing that I think about whenever I'm working with my clients on, okay, who's your target market and what is going to be useful for them? And then of course, what's your budget? Because, I want to fit it within their budget, but that's an example there.
I really like that. That's absolutely amazing. So we've talked a lot about, using this as a strategy for, new customer, new client acquisition, using it on the front end side of the marketing funnel. But what about for either retention of current customers or clients and things like that, or even potentially like internally? I've got to recruit new team members, or I want to take care of my team and do different things like that. Kind of what advice would you give to business owners to be thinking about beyond just the new customer acquisition side of things? How else can they be using this stuff effectively within their business?
So one of my clients, man, I would love to work for this company actually. I mean, they truly value their employees. They understand the power of promo, but the power of just connecting and showing appreciation to their employees and their clients. They're actually doing an employee and a client appreciation coming up. It's a tequila tasting in May. Anyway, so every time they get a new hire, we send out an amazing sweater embroidered. It's a zip, it's a quarter zip kind of non-pill, high end. They were using North Face before, but now we've switched over to Storm Tech because they are also like very sustainable. It's a woman-owned business and they recycle plastic bottles. I forget how many are in each sweater, but there's a lot of plastic bottles that are, saved from the ocean that go into these jackets. But those go out to their new hires along with a nice engraved Yeti tumbler. So that's like the onboarding. That's just the, hey, we are so happy to have you. And this is our way of showing that we appreciate you and value as a new employee here. And then every quarter, they do a cool event. This one that they just did actually just a couple weeks ago. They're based out of Houston, but they brought everybody to Austin here at Miraval Spa. And in that, we put together some things that had the relaxation theme to it. And this company also understands the value of proper branding in that their employees aren't going to always want that logo and that business name on every item. So instead, it might be you can add like values words. You can add fun saying or a fun image and not even have the logo on there. When it's at an event like that, people are going to remember, they're going to know, and they're going to appreciate it. Or sometimes they'll just have the icon of the logo, not the entire business name. I have an example, not of theirs. I have an example of one I did for mine. I have a journal here that I didn't put my logo on, but the QR code will take somebody to my landing page where they can see either my website or schedule a visit with me through Calendly or leave a review on Google or whatever. Anyway, the QR code does all that, but I've got hashtag goals on here because hat trick promotions, right? I'm all about assisting people with their goals. So that's just an example of how you can brand without putting a big old logo that might not be as appreciated all the time.
Yeah, actually, I had like just written down, and that was a perfect example. If we go back to kind of the question on like what's the purpose, and I think lead capture in some cases is a really important thing. And you just shared like QR code being able to capture leads in some way, shape, or form. So maybe we can just spend a couple minutes talking about lead capture opportunities. What are some creative ways that you've seen that work? I'm thinking through all the marketing stuff in my brain, like how did, as a spa, as an example, if you're a chiropractor or something like that, and you want to generate additional leads, you go to each of the spas around town, you have them hand out something every time they have somebody come in, right? That has your stuff on it. But how do you get lead capture? So what are some things that you've seen that have been either really creative or worked really well to kind of pair this offline, very tangible thing with, I need lead capture. I need to be able to get them into my system and be able to do some follow-up and know that I've got some leads from this thing too.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the most basic way before we get into the high-tech way. One example is, which is funny, this was actually a high-tech company, but they had an event, a community event that they were at and had a vendor booth, and it was outdoors. So we created a branded drone that had a camera, for, taking videography of the event. We didn't create just one, we created two. So one was flying around and people got to see it, and they were drawn to the table because this drone was there, and everybody wanted to kind of like check it out. The second one was a giveaway. So they were collecting leads through basically a raffle prize for that secondary branded drone. And the neat thing is, he shared the video with me after the event was over. I was like, oh, so how did it go? Oh, another thing we did too was we created a branded, like a selfie frame. It looks like a Polaroid picture, and it had their hashtag that they wanted for that event for social media purposes. That was actually, I think that's how they may have ended up giving away the second drone through social media that way. Don't remember if that actually happened. If not, it's the idea that just popped into my head. Anyhow, but they did have that. So when I asked how the event went, he shared some of the pictures that people had posted on with their hashtag, and he shared the video drone that they had been taking that day. And it was kind of funny and kind of sad at the same time, because there were a ton of tents that you could see the tops of the tents as it's flying around. And the crowd was all at their tent. And there was not a lot of people anywhere else in the entire thing. And I thought, well, that's a pretty good testimony for the effectiveness of, drawing people to your table. That was a good one. So now let's move up a little more high tech, and we're not just talking fish bowls and signed little, drawing slips. Now, I have a platform that, like, if you're, say, at a trade show and people come to your booth and you want to maybe encourage a sign up for a program or the purchase of whatever the service or product is, there is now a platform where you can give away a really nice item of their choosing that gets shipped to them after the event, and they can even personalize it so they can add their name to it or the name that they choose to put on it. All in a website where the company doesn't pay for anything more than what is ordered. They select ahead of time what is the price point of items that we want in there. So it could be like a high-end water bottle. I'm not talking about just, a little cheap plastic one. We're talking, it can be the 40-ounce Stanley Cup that was so popular last year, or the Walla bottle, water bottles that are popular now, or a Hydro Peak or whatever. and or you can do a really nice backpack or some really nice gifts within that budget that is allowed. So the good thing about that is, one, you're not buying extra stuff, you're not having to store anything, you're not having to transport anything for a convention, getting to select what they want, so you know they're going to like it, they're going to use it, they're going to keep it, and the cost is, figured in after the fact for only but those things that, so there's a lot of, and of course then you also have the lead captured too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool advantages with that platform.
Ooh, I really like that. I'm already like thinking of different ways that you could incorporate that, whether it's at like a big event or something else like that, or even God, you could do that at networking. You could have it on your business card. I mean, I'm just like thinking it through. It's so amazing. But like for those that are listening and just like trying to take, what's even some of the middle of the road stuff, right? If you've got a promotional item, you get somebody to actually take a look at it, something useful because you've gone through all of those things before. And whether it's a QR code or even just a specific marketing phone number that you put on that says, hey, you downloaded this journal, or you got this journal as an example, right? And maybe there's something right on it that says, if you want the 3-page guide to help you think through what to journal on every single day, text XYZ to this phone number here. And all of a sudden you've captured leads and you've done some things like that. So I'm starting to see how all this stuff kind of fits together, and it's really, really cool. But I do want to be kind of respectful of our time here today. I've got a couple, I think, fun rapid fire questions for us to finish off on. So the first one, in your time being involved in promotional materials, and this can be either in your business or times before that when you've just seen different promotional material, what's the worst promo item that you've ever seen?
I would say it's not necessarily the worst promo item. It's the worst end product because the art was not done correctly. So this is not a fail from my business, but there was a time when I was doing Monday marketing mishaps on my Facebook page years ago. And I would share some of these marketing fails, but one was somebody had ordered pens and they shipped with your logo here on the pens. That's the, whenever you're supposed to upload and you're not working with a promo professional, but instead you're just working with a big box website, those kinds of fails can happen. Yeah.
That's unfortunate. So second rapid fire question. What's the most underrated item that gets like the most amazing feedback?
Ooh, underrated. I hate to say a pen, but it is underrated. People are like, oh, another pen, but they last forever. And like I'd mentioned before, they get passed along. I always tell people, don't get the cheap pen. I mean, I know like banks typically will go with a cheap pen because they order tens of thousands of them at a time, but you want the one that people want to steal. And so I kind of laugh when I go to like a doctor's office or one of those places where, have you ever seen where they take a flower, like a fake flower, and they wrap the green around it so it sits in a flower pot? And that's really cute. I mean, it gives a cute little look on the desks, and it's so nobody will steal their pen. But I'm like, you should have people wanting to steal your pens. That's your advertising. Like, keep that. Like, that's, lean into that. So people think oftentimes they'll come in, and now I don't push a lot of pens necessarily. So I'm not going to say that because it sounds very generic, but it is underrated. It is underrated because they get a lot of cost, or a lot of impressions for that low cost. And again, if you get a good one that is someone's favorite, they're not going to lose that. And they're going to make sure they always have that. And they don't want that one stolen. So I'm going to say it's underrated.
I really like that answer. I think of two things popped into my head. One is what you said earlier on the, associating quality with your brand. And if you actually have, if I've got a pen that I love using and it's got somebody's brand on it, that I'm already going to have, whether I want to or not, there's going to be an association paired with that. The second thing is I'm always out of pens at home, and I'm not going to go buy myself pens for at home. I might at the office, but I don't think about it at home. But I want those pens, right? I could definitely see that. All right, we'll do one more rapid fire here. If you could only have kind of one gift or one branded item that you could sell for the rest of your career, what would you choose?
Okay, this is kind of, ooh. That's so tough because, again, who's the target audience? It all boils back down to the target audience. What's the budget? What's the, what is the goal with this thing? But something that I really like, I do like a lot of the tech stuff. And, ooh, actually, my tote bag. I got a new tote bag that's got nice padded place for my computer and all my stuff. But there's also like triple chargers, like 3-in-1 chargers, so you can charge your phone, your watch, your earbuds, all in the same place. Love those. I can't narrow it down to one. There's a lot of good stuff out there. I mean, there's amazing like Bose sunglasses that have Bluetooth music through them. I mean, you can do some cool stuff. So the hammocks, the fully branded hammocks. Heck yes, I want to relax in a hammock. Yeah, there's not one. Sorry, I can't answer that.
Well, I appreciate your initial reaction or answer probably better than anything else. Just I can't answer that because it depends on the target market. Like we have to be thinking about this, and I think if there's a major takeaway from this conversation for business owners, for folks that are looking for this stuff, that is such a big component. So I appreciate the connection of that piece with that question. Michelle, for those that want to learn more, that want to connect with you, that want to have a conversation, like what would this look like for their business? Where can we advise them to go for a little bit more information?
Well, my website is probably the easiest. It's Hat Trick Promotions or hattrickpromos, either way.com will get you there. There is a contact page there with a Calendly link. So if you want to schedule a one-on-one time, I'm happy to, do it over the phone, do it over the web, do it in person, in the Round Rock area, that is. I even have a walk and talk option there. So if we want to meet at a park, get some fresh air and fresh ideas while walking the park. That is a new feature I have on my Calendly. So yeah, just go to hattrickpromotions.com.
Perfect. Well, I will make sure that's linked everywhere for folks that are listening to this. If you are here in the area and you see Michelle out at a networking event, something else like that, please make sure you go up, say hi, introduce yourself, all that kind of stuff. But Michelle, I just want to say thank you again. I think this has been such a enlightening and fun conversation about kind of what does it look like for business owners to really think about promotional items and doing it right versus just deciding to do it because it's last minute. We got to do something. So I appreciate this so much. And this has been a lot of fun.
Hey, speaking of last minute, please give us a few weeks. It'd be great. A lot less stress for everyone. Give yourself like 3 weeks would be great.
Planning ahead is such an important piece. And I will echo that from a like full-on marketing like approach, right? Always be planning ahead. None of it should be last minute. So I appreciate that that reminder there. So
yes, thank
awesome.
you for having me.
Of course, it's been so much fun.
All right, thanks.